The NFL is in full-blown panic mode as the 2026 schedule release nears, all because of one name, Patrick Mahomes. League owners are reportedly furious after a bombshell update on his availability sent everything into chaos. But the real shock is in Mahomes' latest medical clause, and it might change everything. In December 2025, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes underwent successful surgery to repair a torn ACL and LCL in his left knee, an injury he sustained during the Week 15 loss to the Chargers. It couldn't have happened at a worse time, as it all but solidified that the team was going to miss the playoffs. The injury didn't just end Mahomes' season. The Chiefs finished the 2025 season with a disappointing 6-11 record, missing the postseason for the first time since 2014. For a franchise that had appeared in 5 Super Bowls and won 3 championships under Mahomes, this was rock bottom. Mahomes has guided the club to 5 Super Bowl appearances and 3 championships since being drafted 10th overall out of Texas Tech in 2017, compiling a 95-31 record as a starter in the regular season and 17-4 in the postseason. Those numbers tell you everything about what the Chiefs lost the moment Mahomes went down. Then, in January 2026, Mahomes dropped the bombshell. Mahomes said mid-January that the goal is to play Week 1 and have no restrictions, but he cautioned that he couldn't predict what would happen throughout the recovery process. For a player less than a month removed from multi-ligament knee surgery, the statement sent shockwaves across the NFL. Surgery came soon after the injury, and the early expectation across the NFL was cautious at best. Multi-ligament knee injuries typically come with a long runway, and the assumption was that the 2026 NFL season might begin without Mahomes under center. But Mahomes wasn't interested in assumptions. He was setting the terms, and that bold declaration Week 1, no restrictions, immediately collided with reality at the NFL owners' meetings in late March 2026. The Kansas City Chiefs are slated to play the reigning NFL champion Seattle Seahawks on the road in 2026, but co-owner Clark Hunt wasn't expecting that game to fall in Week 1. "I don't think that's on the table anymore," he told reporters. "I think from a league standpoint, there would be some concern whether Patrick Mahomes would be ready to go." So here you have it, a 3-time Super Bowl champion quarterback publicly announcing he will play Week 1, and his own team's owner publicly telling the NFL that he probably won't. That contradiction is the engine of this entire story, and it only got more intense as the schedule release approached. To understand why Clark Hunt reacted the way he did, you have to understand the severity of what happened to Patrick Mahomes in December 2025. This wasn't a sprained ankle or a bruised rib. Mahomes underwent successful surgery in December to repair a torn ACL and LCL in his left knee. That's 2 ligaments, 2 structural pillars of the knee, torn simultaneously during a live NFL game. Mahomes finished the 2025 season with 3,587 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and an 89.6 passer rating. Barring 2017, when he stood on the sideline behind Alex Smith and only played 1 game, this was the lowest passer rating of his starting career. Even before the injury, the cracks were showing. The numbers had dipped. The weapons around him had thinned. The offense that once looked like a cheat code had become something considerably more ordinary. And then the knee buckled. His season-ending torn ACL and LCL suffered last year were immediately projected to be an extended recovery process that could delay his start to the 2026 campaign. ACL recoveries typically have a 12-month recovery timeline, but advances in medicine have shortened that timeline in recent years. Still, we're talking about an injury that traditionally sidelines even elite athletes for the better part of a year. And Mahomes didn't just tear his ACL, the LCL was also involved, complicating the rehabilitation in ways that a single ligament tear does not. Mahomes' surgery was performed by Dr. Dan Cooper, the Dallas Cowboys team physician. That fact alone raised eyebrows. Why would the Chiefs' franchise quarterback go under the knife with the Cowboys doctor? The answer, of course, is that Cooper is one of the best knee surgeons in sports medicine. And when the most important player in the NFL needs his knee rebuilt, you go to the best, regardless of what jersey the doctor's regular patients wear. The rehab began immediately. He began rehabilitation immediately with a typical recovery timeline of 8 months, putting his return for the start of the 2026 season in focus. 8 months from December surgery puts the target around August, training camp territory. That's tight, uncomfortably tight, and it assumes everything goes according to plan, with no setbacks, no swelling, no regression. Recovery from ACL and LCL injuries differs significantly depending on rehab progress and conditioning. In Mahomes' case, the Chiefs could opt to keep him off the field early in the year. If everything goes smoothly, he could be ready by week 1 or shortly after. However, even a minor setback could push his return further. The franchise had just watched its dynasty window slam shut for a season. The last thing Clark Hunt wanted was to gamble Mahomes' long-term health on a September spotlight, and yet that's exactly what Mahomes appeared to be volunteering for. The tension between those two positions, the player pushing forward, the owner pumping the brakes, became the defining subplot of the Chiefs' offseason, and it set the stage for everything that followed. Clark Hunt did not arrive at his position casually. This is a man who had watched his franchise dominate the NFL for half a decade, a man who had stood on confetti-strewn stages holding the Lombardi Trophy on 3 separate occasions with Mahomes as his quarterback, and now, standing at the NFL owners' meetings in Phoenix in late March 2026, Hunt was essentially telling the league that his greatest asset might not be available for the biggest game of the opening week. As Kansas City Chiefs fans know, it's tradition for the reigning Super Bowl champion to host the first game of the following season. The Chiefs, as champions of the 2019, 2022, and 2023 seasons, opened the next NFL regular season with home games on that first Thursday night. This year, the Seattle Seahawks would get the honor of hosting the first game of the 2026 NFL regular season due to defeating the Patriots in Super Bowl 60. The Chiefs do play the Seahawks in Seattle in 2026, prompting the obvious question of whether they'd be the team opening the season on that Wednesday night in September. The matchup wrote itself. The Seahawks, fresh off their championship, hosting Mahomes and the Chiefs, the team that had owned that very tradition for years. It was a broadcaster's dream, except there was a problem. I think from a league standpoint, there would be some concern whether Patrick Mahomes would be ready to go. Mahomes tore his ACL back in December, and although he's aiming for a week 1 return, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. And as Hunt said, the league wouldn't want to risk scheduling the Chiefs in such a high-profile game. If there's a chance Mahomes might not play, think about that from the league's perspective. The season opener is the crown jewel of the early schedule. It draws the biggest ratings, the most media attention, the highest advertising dollars. Last year, the NFL put 2-time NFL MVP Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in that opener spot, and the game set a regular season record by drawing 57.23 million viewers. You don't replicate those numbers by having Justin Fields take the field instead. It would be a risky move for the league to choose Kansas City to play Seattle, since it is unknown if Mahomes will be available to start the regular season. A quarterback matchup between the Seahawks' Sam Darnold and the Chiefs' backup Justin Fields wouldn't likely be a great recipe for television ratings. So Hunt did what any shrewd owner would do. He got ahead of it. Rather than let the league schedule his team into a game where his franchise quarterback might be a spectator in street clothes, Hunt essentially waved the league off. He told them publicly, "This is not our game. Not this year. Not until we know Mahomes is healthy." But here's what made it complicated. Mahomes had already said the opposite. He had told the entire NFL world that his goal was week 1, no restrictions. The quarterback wanted the spotlight, the owner wanted caution, and the league was stuck in the middle, preparing to release a schedule that would have to thread that needle. The Chiefs will undoubtedly play in primetime multiple times next season, but don't be surprised if the top exposure comes after the first month, when there will be less concern about whether Mahomes will actually be playing. The scheduling calculus was clear. Load the Chiefs' primetime appearances into the back half of the schedule. Give Mahomes time. And if he comes back earlier than expected, the league can flex games into better windows. But Clark Hunt's public remarks had already drawn a line, and the NFL was preparing to honor it. Meanwhile, the Chiefs' front office was busy doing something else entirely, building an insurance policy. While the schedule drama played out in public, the Kansas City Chiefs spent the 2026 offseason quietly reshaping the roster in a way that was designed to serve 2 purposes: protect Mahomes if he came back, and survive without him if he didn't. The Chiefs further backed the cautious sentiment by adding former first-round pick Justin Fields, whom head coach Andy Reid has already endorsed as a viable Week 1 starter. The trade for Fields in March was the organization's clearest admission that Mahomes' Week 1 return was far from guaranteed. You don't trade for a quarterback with 53 career starts if you're certain your franchise guy will be under center for the opener. The Chiefs traded for Justin Fields in March and drafted former LSU signal caller Garrett Nussmeier in April's NFL draft. But the quarterback depth was just the beginning. The Chiefs focused the offseason on finding ways to make Mahomes' life easier. That means adding a new running back in Kenneth Walker III, a new wide receivers coach in Chad O'Shea to ensure his pass catchers are on point with their route running, and a new offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy to strengthen the offense's fundamentals. The return of Bieniemy, the man who had coordinated the offense during the dynasty's peak years, was particularly significant. It wasn't just about scheme, it was about restoring an identity that the franchise had lost during its 6-11 collapse. The Chiefs addressed part of the offensive problem by signing Kenneth Walker III to a 3-year, $43 million deal, bringing in the Super Bowl MVP running back to give the offense a dimension it had desperately lacked. The best way to keep your quarterback upright is not just with a strong offensive line, but also by putting him in situations in which he's not asked to throw as often. Doing so requires having and maintaining a lead. That philosophy built the offense so that Mahomes doesn't have to carry the entire operation. On his surgically repaired knee, extended to the draft, the Chiefs did not select a single offensive lineman in this year's draft class. The first offensive player of any position the Chiefs selected was running back Emmett Johnson with the 161st overall pick. That doesn't mean this draft failed to protect Mahomes. It just means the Chiefs used the draft to achieve that objective in a more non-traditional way. But the one glaring weakness that the Chiefs didn't address remained the elephant in the room. ESPN penned a new column naming the biggest roster hole for each NFL team heading into the 2026 season, and the wide receivers were listed as the biggest issue for Kansas City. The performance of the Chiefs' wide receivers, according to ESPN's receiver scores last season, were significantly bad. According to ESPN analyst Aaron Schatz, wide receiver is the Chiefs' biggest roster weakness, and the team needs to add a veteran option to help Mahomes lead another Super Bowl run. Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy are expected to enter the season as Kansas City's top 2 receivers, but both come with concerns. The wide receiver core remained thin, young, and unproven, a reality that would make Mahomes' return even more critical. Without him, this passing game would struggle to function. With him, there was at least a chance that his talent could elevate the players around him. Mahomes himself had already made headlines earlier in the year for his unselfish leadership. He willingly restructured his historic $500 million contract, effectively cutting nearly $35 million from his 2026 salary cap hit. This massive move allowed the Kansas City Chiefs front office the financial flexibility to retain star players and sign top-tier free agents. The restructure was Mahomes telling the organization, "I'm giving you the money. Go build a team." And the organization responded by building a roster that could function with or without him. At the start of the year, an acknowledgement of uncertainty that stood in stark contrast to Mahomes' own public confidence. And then, the story shifted, because while Clark Hunt was telling the NFL to steer clear, and while the front office was constructing a Justin Fields contingency plan, Patrick Mahomes was in the Chiefs' training facility, doing something no one expected, getting better at an extraordinary pace. I was with Patrick a couple of days ago in our training room, watching him go through the work that he's doing to get back on the field with the rehab. Hunt said, "And nobody works harder than Patrick. He certainly has a goal of being back for the beginning of the season. I wouldn't put it past him. He's somebody in the past who's healed very quickly." Wait, this is the same Clark Hunt who told the NFL to take the Chiefs out of the opener. Now he's saying he wouldn't put it past Mahomes. The narrative was starting to bend. By early May, the updates escalated rapidly. Andy Reid told reporters on Saturday, May 15, 2026, that Patrick Mahomes is on track to participate in the Kansas City Chiefs' first organized team activities. Later this month, the clearest positive signal yet about the 3-time Super Bowl champion's recovery, Mahomes has progressed to throwing the ball after being injured last December. And Reid said the quarterback was in a good position to be able to do some things during the team's off-season program. For Mahomes, the fact that he could be participating in any team football activities less than 6 months after ACL surgery is the kind of positive update that Chiefs fans and NFL observers were hoping for. 6 months, less than 6 months from a multi-ligament knee reconstruction, and the man is throwing footballs and preparing to join organized team activities. "I knew that this bump on the road wouldn't slow him down at all," Veach said about Mahomes. "But I mean, this guy has been in the building, especially like a player that has accomplished everything and can do anything he wants. He can hire his own trainers and be wherever he wants. He's in our building every single day. Even when he goes away for a few days, say to Dallas for a weekend with his family, he takes one of our trainers with him. He's way ahead of schedule, Veach added. That phrase, way ahead of schedule, was the verification. That Mahomes' January declaration wasn't bravado, it was prophecy. The quarterback who told the world he'd be ready for week 1 was now tracking to be exactly that. Veach expanded upon what Hunt had said at the NFL annual meetings in Phoenix in late March. By every indication, Patrick is ahead of schedule, and he's worked really hard to be ahead of schedule. Hunt acknowledged, knowing how that plays out in terms of being ready for contact. I don't think any of us can speculate, but he's doing fantastic, and we certainly hope we're going to bounce back this year. At voluntary workouts, Mahomes was in attendance for the start of Kansas City's sessions. Reid said Mahomes is participating in weight training and meetings as the 30-year-old QB continues to progress in his recovery. Even the President of the United States got pulled into the Mahomes recovery watch. The idea behind President Donald Trump hosting the owner of Slap's Barbecue of Kansas City at the White House was to highlight the Small Business Summit, but the sports fan-in-chief quickly turned the conversation to his concern for Patrick Mahomes. The most important thing, how's Mahomes doing? Trump asked Slap's President Joe Pierce. ACL rehabilitation follows a relatively predictable progression of milestones. Range of motion, strength rebuilding, return to movement patterns, return to running, return to sport-specific activity, and the ability to participate even in a limited capacity at May OTAs. Suggests Mahomes has been moving through those milestones on schedule or ahead of it. The OTAs scheduled for the end of May would provide the first real on-field data. The Chiefs' first OTAs are scheduled for May 26 to 28, with a second window running June 1 to 3. A mandatory minicamp follows. Contact practices do not begin until training camp in July. Each of those checkpoints represents a gate that Mahomes must pass through, and by every indication, he's been sprinting through them. Now here's where everything comes full circle. The NFL confirmed that the 2026 schedule release will be on Thursday, May 14th. That schedule will tell us where the Chiefs land in the opening weeks, and whether the league listened to Clark Hunt's warnings or took a gamble on Mahomes being healthy. One team that could end up playing on Christmas is Kansas City. The Chiefs have played on Christmas for 3 straight seasons, and now they want to make it 4 in a row. We'd love to play on Christmas, Chiefs president Mark Donovan said. So even as the team pushed away from the opener, they were pulling hard for other marquee slots, a signal that the organization fully expects Mahomes to be playing meaningful football by the second half of the season at the latest. When you add in the return of star tight end Travis Kelce for a 13th season, a healthy Xavier Worthy, a full season with Rashee Rice, Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker, All-American rookie Emmett Johnson, and a healthy offensive line, if Mahomes is under center by week 1 as well, the Chiefs could immediately reclaim their spot atop the AFC. The bombshell Mahomes dropped in January. Week 1, no restrictions, shook the NFL establishment so thoroughly that his own owner went to the league and told them to plan around his absence. But the recovery has been so rapid, so far beyond what the medical timelines predicted, that now even Clark Hunt has shifted his tone from caution to cautious optimism. The schedule drops on May 14th. OTAs begin on May 26th. And somewhere in between, we'll find out whether the NFL hedged its bets or called Patrick Mahomes' bluff. Based on everything we've seen, the throwing videos, Reid's updates, Veach's confirmation, Hunt's evolving statements, the smart money says this: nobody should have doubted Patrick Mahomes. The man tore 2 ligaments in his knee, declared he'd be back by September, and then proceeded to make everyone around him scramble to keep up. Clark Hunt didn't lose it because he was angry. He lost it because, even after watching Mahomes do the impossible 3 times on the Super Bowl stage, the idea that his quarterback could come back from a multi-ligament knee reconstruction in time for week 1 seemed too outrageous to plan around. It wasn't outrage, it was disbelief. And Mahomes is making them all believers again.